It would help if I had the mic on. All right. So then Ed Blumling will get up and give the practicalities of how any areas are cleaned of bed bugs, how they do the inspections, and kind of the process to control. So again, I'll give the biology. Mr. Spalding's going to get up and give the actual reporting process and some of the reports that we have had in the school and what's being done to handle that and kind of what our responsibility is. And then Ed Blumling's going to give us some demonstrations and some additional information too. So, all right, classification of a bed bug. What is it? It's very interesting. I'm used to talking about much smaller bugs than this. Bed bugs are insects, and they're of the order called Hemiptera. And in case you don't know, if you ever took an entomology class, all insects are not bugs, but Hemiptera are bugs. They're also insects. They're what are called the true bugs. Simidae or Cymex. There's two different Cymex species that you see up here that are most common cause of the human problems that we'll see, infestations in different living spaces and everything. Hemiptera, like I said, are the true bugs. They have what are called shield-shaped bodies. And in case you never thought about it, when you see bugs out somewhere outside, you'll say, oh, I know what a Hemiptera is because its body is shaped like a shield. Cicadas are examples, leafhoppers, aphids, milkweed bugs. You've probably seen some of these at some point. But these are, again, what are called the true bugs. These are the cousins of bed bugs. We've seen milkweed bugs. You've probably seen those someplace. You see that pretty commonly in Michigan. Now, the one on the lower right is triatomid bug, or the kissing bug, which can spread trypanosomes. They're called South American or American trypanosomes that cause Chagas disease. It's not something that they see in this country. I think they have spotted the insect maybe in the far, far south part of the U.S., but mostly it's South America, Central America, and Mexico. It's called the kissing bug because it'll actually kiss somebody at night, bite somebody at night around the face, and then when they bite, they defecate, and they're carriers of the trypanosomes. Trypanosomes also cause African sleeping sickness, but this is a relative that's in this part of the world and can cause this Chagas disease, which ends up being a parasitic disease that can affect the heart. I guess some similarities to bed bugs is that they do bite, they just bite, but they do transmit infection, they do transmit other disease, and they do it at night too. So they're blood feeders, just like bed bugs. But they're significantly larger. This isn't something that you wouldn't be able to spot. They're very large insects. But again, that's not a problem in the US. And they are a disease vector, whereas bed bugs are not. All right, this is the close-up of the adult bed bug. It's something Ed's sitting over here and saying he's very familiar with seeing these. I do have some size reference slides up here too, so you kind of get an idea. Part of this and the point of today is if you think you do spot one of these anywhere in the school and Schiffman Library, we kind of want to give you some idea of size, what they look like. I do have a slide in a little bit that shows possible confusions. So if you think it's a bed bug, is it? Or could it be something else? So at least a little bit of identification here. This is the back of the bed bug. All insects have wings, but the bed bugs, it's called vestigial, so you don't really see it up here. They don't fly. They're not flying insects. This is the ventral side or the underneath side, if you see it. Small, flat, reddish-brown in color, wingless, like I said, or vestigial wings, 1 to 7 millimeters is roughly the size of Lincoln's head on a penny. These are pretty big. I mean, these look like adult to me. So they would go about this size and smaller. They're visible. This isn't something like, you can't see it. It's not like a mite or something like that. You can visibly see them, but they're not huge. You'd have to look pretty close. You can kind of see the reddish-brownish color. There is some appearance differences if they've had a blood meal or not, and you can tell. You can tell in their gut if they've actually fed on someone recently. Again, size reference, a few millimeters. If you spread them out lengthways, maybe about 5 to 7 millimeters. All right, now what's happened in a concern in this country is because there has been a resurgence since around 1996, and I looked up this U.S. National Pest Management Association, a 71% increase between 2000 and 2005. why is this? And it may kind of follow what we see with some other reportable diseases. Could it be insecticides, less effective insecticide use, resistance is possible, international travel. Just like a disease process, it's brought back to this country, and this isn't something that's spread person to person like a disease, but it's spread in our dwellings. So if there's an infected house or apartment or hotel or something from a traveler, eventually it's going to increase in incidence. The population of the insects will rise. And so you can see the kind of numbers for the reported incidents in New York City, and we've heard New York really, has a huge problem. But anything that starts there, just like everything else, is going to spread across the country. And it's probably some awareness too. We see this with a lot of infectious diseases. Just the awareness and the reporting probably increases where before maybe people weren't aware of what it was. But now we know what to look for, and there's professionals that are able to go in and deal with it, and then it's kind of a reportable disease now. It's a reportable infestation in a building. All right, the life cycle, the female can lay up to 5 eggs daily. It's about a 4 to 12 day hatching. The instar nymphs, instar is just a life cycle stage in the insects. It's pretty straightforward. They go through 5 nymph stages and end up as an adult. Each stage they need a blood meal, so they do rely on us to feed, or on a warm-blooded animal to feed, but each stage along the way, and they'll molt as they grow, but they simply start off as a nymph, which is very small, and then get larger and larger as they go along. And this shows the instar stages of from the egg to the smaller nymph size, and then all the way up to the adult. And at each stage, they're shedding, they're molting. There is debris that you can see if you do have an infestation, so you can see the skins, the leftover skins from the molt, as well as the live insects themselves. And I've got a picture of that. So it's pretty straightforward. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to feed. Therefore, they're feeding at night most commonly. They'll hide and then feed on a person and then go back into hiding again. They can go 6 to 12 months and survive without feeding. So there is a dormancy potential there. So that's a concern too, to treat and try and deal with them more aggressively, because they can't hang out for quite a while. Mating occurs. I know I was joking with Sandy Martin about this, something about traumatic insemination, which we won't get into, but it's something unique about the life cycle of these bugs, the way they mate. So you can Google that sometime. Maybe there's a YouTube video of it. Here's a good picture too that shows the different life cycle stages, and I mentioned, and you can visibly see the difference between if they've had a blood meal or not. They actually swell, and you can see that they're full of blood. So you can see the different life cycle stages all the way to the male and female adult, and then back to the eggs again. So there's the molt stage and the feeding where you can see differences between the two. And they're obviously considerably larger and got the reddish brown color. And then when they fed, you can actually see that too. Universal distribution. One thing to point to, it's not related to cleanliness necessarily. You can have a perfectly clean apartment, hotel room, and with an infestation because they're just hiding out in the right spot. So it's not necessarily a dirty place is going to have bed bugs. It's where people sleep, seams of mattresses, box springs, headboards, frames, even behind the wallpaper. Usually I found 2.5 meters away from where people sleep, so about 7 or 8 feet, but up to 30 meters, I guess, they can travel at night, which is about 90 feet. All right, now this is something Ed's going to talk about, the way they treat. There's a couple of different ways. They are sensitive to cold or to heat. Think of room temperature around 22 centigrade. Below 13, the development ceases at the lower temperatures around here. 13 is in the mid-50s, say Fahrenheit. If they get up to around 90 to 100 degrees, and what it does is they have a bacterial symbiote in their guts that help feed them or provide nutrients. And you get above that temperature and it starts to kill the symbiote and the insects die. So that's something that the last part of the presentation today is Ed will talk about, because it is an environmentally sound treatment method to be able to take advantage of their heat sensitivity. So he'll talk about how if there is infestation, they can go in or deal with isolated pieces of furniture or something like that and not have to spray with the insecticides. But it's based on the cold and heat sensitivity, which is fortunate. To be able to do that and not have to use chemicals. All right, so how are they going to spread? Typically, and we've heard this, they conceal themselves in objects. So from one infested area, then you can carry or transmit them to someplace else. Seams of luggage in the clothing and bedding and furniture. They don't fly or hop, they have to walk. So physically, you set something down and there's an infestation and they crawl into your luggage or in your clothing or something like that. And they're hitchhikers. Maybe on furniture too. They're not disease vectors. So when I read through this, and this was brand new to me in investigating this and researching it, it's interesting. But I think I would equate it most to being bit by a mosquito or something like that. They're taking a blood meal. Although mosquitoes can obviously transmit disease, not so much in this country. But it is a bite, it's a blood meal they're taking, but they're not disease vectors, so they're not transmitting anything, and they've never been shown to. There may be an itchy reaction, just like some people react differently to other bug bites like mosquitoes, pruritic meaning itchy, allergic reaction. Some people may react more than others. But in general, you're going to get a bug bite, and that's what it's going to look like. And I have a pattern that shows up here of what they look like, and it kind of correlates with the way they feed at night. It may take a couple weeks for it to develop, just like a mosquito bite, and individuals are going to differ. It's an erythematous wheal, which is the red portion, and then a reddish papule, which would be the swollen bump. 20-centimeter wheals and 3-centimeter papules. You're going to see it on areas that are exposed during sleep. So if there's any suspicion, maybe it is summer, and you're not really sure, that's going to be an indicator. If you're wearing pajamas or something like that, they're going to bite on exposed skin surfaces. If you were wearing sweats and had, I guess, tight cuffs around your arms and your legs, that's probably one way you could keep from getting bit all over. Multiple bites, I have a picture, actually form a linear conformation because they bite and then they move. And if you move and feel it during the night when you're sleeping, then they'll move to the next spot and bite, and next spot and bite. So you'll see an actual linear pattern, and that's characteristic of bed bugs. Secondary infection, possibly from scratching the bites, just like anything with a staph skin infection. But that's probably the worst consequence of it, other than the huge annoyance. Here's the pattern, and you can see the typical bed bug, our typical bug bite type appearance of the wheal, and then the papule, or the bump in the middle. But you can see the linear pattern, so you can tell the insect is actually feeding, moving along and feeding on somebody while they're sleeping. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, isn't that the way they describe it? You can actually see series of bites over an 8-hour period when somebody's sleeping, and they may just continuously feed. Interestingly, and we've always heard that blood-sucking arthropods have different ways to prevent blood clots or prevent the person from feeling it. Bed bugs are the same. They have an anticoagulant in their saliva, something called nitrophorin, which is a heme protein that transports nitric oxide that promotes vasodilation at the site, so that helps keep blood flow going. And they also make a pyrase, which is an ATPase that interferes with the ADP cycle for platelets, so that helps prevent blood clotting. So there's a few different ways that they anesthetize, increase vasodilation, and also interfere with platelet aggregation so you don't get a blood clot at the spot. So, pretty sophisticated, fairly well adapted to feeding on warm-blooded mammals. Signs of infestation, you can actually see it in the mattresses and sheets. The exoskeleton, like I said, after molting, there's actually rusty-colored spots in the bedding that are blood-filled fecal matter, which is pretty rude. I guess they just hang out and do whatever they want, and even defecate in your bedding. This was something interesting. Ed will talk to us about the dogs that they can bring in to smell it, but I guess if the infestation is bad enough, you can smell it. He's shaking his head yes, and that's something I wasn't aware of. I thought this would be, micro scent with detection by a dog, but I guess we can smell it if it's that bad. I don't know how bad that has to be, but pungent. And because they do possess stink glands. There are stink bugs that are related to these too, so I guess there may be some relation there. Here's the pictures, slightly disturbing. There are even more disturbing pictures and even videos, but I don't think I want to show those. So you can actually see the bed bugs, you can see the stains on the mattress. Here, probably at the base of the wall on the floor, you can see the infestation. You can see the molting debris from when they grow, the exoskeletons that are shed. So you can't actually visibly see the infestation. But, they're not huge, so again, if you think you're spotting something here, you'll have to take a close look. It's not incredibly visible like a cockroach, but they're also not invisible. They're in a size range you can certainly see with the eye. A couple slides I found, Google search, which I thought was interesting. Carpet beetle larvae. Beetles themselves are shaped a little bit different. You can see the bed bugs actually have the segmented body, which is pretty characteristic. Beetles don't necessarily. Beetles have a wing cover, so they're just smooth. Their back is smooth. But a carpet beetle larvae is segmented like that and could cause confusion. Fleas, possibly, but fleas hop. They have a very different kind of motility. Keep in mind, too, that bed bugs don't travel on people. They travel on objects or clothing, or they're not really infesting the person. Fleas would be a little different. The other possible confusion would be lice, head lice, which are person to person, all right? And you can see head lice. I mean, they're visible if somebody has them, but that is a person-to-person transmission. They're going to carry, a person's going to do that, and by very close contact or sharing hats or something. You'll have that. Other things that they said may be confusing are maple seeds, a wood sorrel seed, or even lint. Even lint blowing along the floor or something like that, you may mistake. So we're just saying that, the purpose of this is if you think you're seeing something, look closely, and there may be confusion. Is it really, are you really seeing a bed bug? Because it could be confused. And it's easy to react. It's easy to think, oh, we've got a major infestation. I think the take-home message is surfaces in the school, the library, places like that really aren't an infestation site, whereas you're going to see it in bedrooms. Because again, the bed bugs, in order for an infestation, have to have a food source. And the food source would be a person, so that's not typically what you're going to have in some place like a library. But could somebody from an apartment or something that has an issue carry one in? Possibly. That can happen anywhere, and you could spot it. Preventing checking luggage and clothes when traveling. Secondhand mattresses or furniture, if you're driving around and you see that furniture out on the side of the road, you may not want to take it home. It's not a free couch. Although, I don't know, maybe in weather like this, it'll be safe, but I still don't know if I'd risk it. So secondhand furniture may not be a good idea. They may be having it out of the curb for a reason. Treating, we're going to hear about that, either professional heat, steam, or cold treatments. Reduce the clutter. Encasements on box springs and mattresses. Interceptors under bedposts are these little circular cups that the beds can go in that the bugs will get trapped in when they can't crawl up. I did look up, when I was looking to prepare this presentation, the EPA reports there's some accidental intoxication. I suppose people have used outside pesticides inside and caused problems with that. So it's not something you just want to tackle yourself and think you can just use any bug spray inside, because then it may cause actual health problems with the pesticide residue inside. Bed bug sniffing dogs. Here's beagles. I guess they can be retrievers also. Different dogs can be trained. And like I said, it's, there is a definite odor, and the dogs do go through here. Mr. Spalding can talk about that also for the inspections if there is a report. All right, now the actual bed bug reporting process, I'm going to turn over to Ron Spalding, and he can talk about, we've got a couple slides here that are the experiences that we've had and then what's being done by the school. I think you've got 2 slides. I think so, and I'm just advancing with the arrow. Yep. I don't think so. I think there's resistance. I think they're using the heat treatment in cold more often. The question was about bombing a space.
Oh, you don't want to do that.
No.
No. And can I just tell you why?
Yeah.
Insects like roaches and ants are constantly grooming themselves. So if there's pesticide on the surface and they pick it up, they'll digest it. So they'll die. Bed bugs don't. They have that beak that goes in your skin to draw the blood, so they're never grooming themselves. So pesticide is a very difficult procedure in getting rid of bed bugs. We do both, but we specialize in heat, and heat's the only way to get rid of them quickly. Everybody has molecules, but bed bug molecules are very waxy, and by that time that temperature goes over 100 degrees, they're in stress. They lose all their body fluid and they just flip over and dehydrate and they're dead. So you never want to bomb a place. It's not, you're just going to put pesticide, you're going to contaminate your apartment or dorm, and it's not going to do anything to the bed bugs.
No, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Jackson. So as Dr. Jackson mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the instances that have been reported to us directly, and what, as a School of Medicine, what we do for that. I know I said this in my email, but we live in the building as well, so it's not in our best interest to have bed bugs either, because we could easily take them home. So the first report that we had was the week of November 4th in 2013, and a student did stop at the library desk and said that she had bed bug bites. And so what we did, utilizing the university's pesticide control in-house service, it was determined that what we should do is fumigate the Missouri building. So the weekend after Thanksgiving, when everybody was out of the building and the university was closed, I came in and Ms. Martin came in, and we let the exterminator spray the entire first and second floor, which was the recommendation at that time. And I will tell you, at that time, no bed bugs were seen at all. So the gentleman who was spraying was also investigating and looking at every surface to see if there was anything. But we didn't know at that point, and a student brought it to our attention, so we did what we thought was the best thing. So the ones that have seemed to be percolating now, since we're now in 2015, but in January of 2014, we decided that we would have monthly inspections, because we knew that other areas on the campus had already started monthly inspections, and because we have a lot of traffic in our buildings, we would do that as well. In September, same year, a student again reported a bed bug bite, and so what we did at that point, we had the inspector come in and they looked around, and in the area that it was specifically reported in. Then that weekend, we had the bed bug dogs in, and they combed the entire library. They found no evidence whatsoever, and that was one of the reports I think that I had sent to the classes. On October 19th, we had, again, somebody had mentioned that they thought we had bed bugs, so we did a routine inspection, and we had the bed bug dogs come in, and they really found no evidence per se of any issues again. January comes along, we get another report. The dogs come and they inspect the library on February 8th. That was early in the morning. One of the things about having the dogs here is we can't have a lot of people in the area, and Ed can talk about that because we're getting ready to do that again. There was one desk, one carrel that was closest to the glass wall, but again, behind the glass wall, not in the public area. The dogs thought they hit on something. The pest control guys looked around, didn't see anything, but we weren't taking any chances. Those chairs were removed from that space, the carrels were cordoned off, and it was chemically treated a couple of days later. Then we rolled out our bug report form. And since that time, we've had one report form come in, and I will give kudos to the student because he actually caught the bug and taped it right to the form. That actually, we locked the room down right away on the 24th, and the inspector came in. He looked at the furniture, the carpet, the baseboards, the walls. There were no indication of bugs, and per Ed's recommendation, we did not do any treatment of that area. So what I want you to know that when somebody does turn in one of those forms, you're going to get follow-up directly from me. So the forms come into the library desk or academic and student programs. I'm going to find out about that right away. We're going to take action, as I said we would, and I will follow up with you directly to let you know what's happened. Our routine inspection is scheduled, so this weekend we're going to be having the dogs come in again, and we will be doing the second and third floor of Missouri, the student lounge, these lecture halls, the MD labs, all to be inspected by the K-9 team. And that really is what I have. I want you to definitely realize that we do take it seriously, and if something is brought to our attention, we will act upon it. Again, we're all living here too, so it's important to us. Thank you. So we're going to have Ed Blumling talk a little bit. He's the expert.
I'd rather use this.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ed Blumling. I'm the owner of Ritter Pest Control. This is our 32nd year in business of killing bugs. Well, we used to be exterminators, then we were pest control technicians, now we're pest managers. So we always want to be politically correct. Isn't that a great picture? When bed bugs really start hitting about 5-6 years ago, I had one of these on my truck, and then I had a lady come out with a black plastic garbage bag and tape it over my truck, so I thought that's not a good idea. So now we're kind of low-keyed when we arrive anywhere, at apartments, universities. I was talking to the doctor this morning about probably one of the worst infestations that we've ever seen, and it was a senior citizen high-rise. It had 200 apartments, and there was one individual, God bless him, he was in his late 70s, he had dementia, and he was an alcoholic. We estimated that he probably, out of 200 apartments, he infested 100 apartments. Only because he came down every day and sat in the lobby. And like the doctor said, the bed bugs usually aren't on you like a flea, but this infestation was so critical that he would just have him under the collar of his jackets, just on his clothes. He'd sit down, deposit him on the sofa, and then the next person would sit down, take him back to their apartment. So senior citizens are it's tough because they can't see too good, like me. They don't know they're even getting bitten because, you know, everybody's bite isn't the same. Everybody reacts differently to bites, so half the time they don't even know that they're getting bitten. So when we go into a senior citizen complex, we really have to have a lot of compassion and take a lot of care with the seniors because they just don't know what's going on. The first page, just like the slides show, the bed bugs are always, you know, all lined up either on the mattress or the box spring, and they're not in colonies like ants or roaches or termites, but it's hormones that attract them to that area, and they sort of all line up. And you'll see all different stages, but mostly the adults. And as the doctor said this morning, the mating is a little unusual, but if you see a bed bug on the ceiling, that's the female, and she wants to get away from the males. She's just heading for the hills. So, and it's usually a pretty populated infestation if you see them up on the ceiling. You don't want to have used furniture. You don't want to pick that off the street. That's a nightmare. And even if you go into the second, I know a lot of students, you know, money is tight, so they go into the secondhand shop, the Salvation Army, secondhand clothes. You have to be really careful with that. You're going to hear me talk about heat, and the clothes dryer is your best friend. You just take that clothes, throw it in the dryer on hot for 20 minutes. And I know because I put my wife's meat thermometer in the dryer, and it gets to be 160 degrees in that dryer. So you're safe with that. 122 degrees kills bed bug eggs and all different stages of the bed bug. So heat is your friend. On that first page down at the bottom, you can see the fecal matter. That's what you want to look for. And it's just like taking your pen and putting a whole bunch of dots. And as soon as you see that, that's a real good sign that you have a problem going on. The next page, reduce clutter. I mean, I actually took those pictures. These are my pictures that I took of apartments, not dorms. I'm going to give you guys a break. But these are apartments that this is the way the people expected us to get rid of their bed bugs. It was quite a challenge. And whether you're putting down insecticide or heat, clutter is your worst enemy. And even if you're living in conditions like that, it's not helpful for the inspector or for a treatment. And even if you move into something that's furnished, you really need to inspect it. And everybody today, and we'll get into the hotels and places like that, but this is your best friend, a little flashlight. You know, you move into a furnished room, a furnished dorm, take the light and just start being an inspector. You can, even if you don't get anything from this class, you can go on the internet and you'll see there's a multitude of pictures and all kinds of advice on inspections. And really, anyone can do a really pretty thorough bed bug inspection. You don't have to be too experienced. Of course, when you're traveling, it's the same thing. It's hotels, motels, and it doesn't matter if it's 5-star or 1-star. It's multiple people staying in that room. They're bringing the bed bugs with them. We do a motel chain, and the funny thing about it is there's an apartment complex that's probably a mile away from this motel chain, and every time they do a bed bug clean out, they send their tenants over to the motel. So I do get a lot of business from the motel, but the motel's budget has been really devastated due to the 1-night, 2-night stands there at the hotel because their apartments are infested. So you as students, your biggest problem would be your laptop computer, because when we do a thermal treatment, we ask the students to leave their laptops in the dorm because we want to get the heat up over 100 degrees. It won't hurt the laptop. We'll inspect it and then we remove it. Your laptop is on your bed. It's on your sofa. It's where you are. And the bed bugs are attracted to the heat. And that's another reason we're very successful with our heat treatment, because when we turn the heat on a treatment, the bed bugs sort of all come out, headed for the heat, because they think that's a whole room full of warm bodies with blood. They're attracted to their CO2, but they're attracted to your body heat. And it's the distance, it varies, could be a couple feet from 8 feet away, but I walked into a vacant apartment and stood there and just talked for 5 minutes to a maintenance technician, and then all of a sudden you'll start seeing the bed bugs come out because they can detect you. So heat, again, we're going to talk about heat. That's your best friend. And of course, everybody goes on spring break, and that's going to be a nightmare because where you go and who you're staying with, again, it's a problem of just staying in a place that you don't know who was there before or what kind of a problem, and you need this little flashlight and do some type of an inspection. And if there's anything that looks somewhat suspicious, don't stay there. That's the best advice I can give anybody. And then the last page that I apologize wasn't stapled, and that shows a bedroom, and the highest area of infestation is the box spring. And you might say, well, geez, why is that? Why wouldn't it be the mattress? It's not the mattress, because you're changing sheets, there's a lot of movement on the mattress, but the box spring usually just stays there. Nothing happens to it. And if anyone's ever turned the box spring upside down, there's a real fine netting that's stapled around it. And the bedbugs just love being around that netting, around those staples. And if it's torn, they'll be up inside. If you ever tear that piece of netting off, there's all wood, and it's hollow inside there. So the box spring is a #1 hiding place. Then, of course, the second one is the mattress, and then it goes to headboard, bed frame, nightstand, baseboard. And the reason it's going out is because the population is growing. It just keeps moving. When bed bugs first hit, the pest control industry were drilling holes in walls, putting pesticide dust in walls, Mother's Earth, which is ground up sea coral, and they were doing all kinds of stuff like that. We found out that they do move, but they really don't move that much. They want to be close to your body. They usually feed at night, the multiple bites, like the doctor said, but right where you stay. So it's usually the bed and the sofa and the chair. When we inspect study rooms, things like that, it's usually because that bed bug got deposited there on someone that was on a laptop, their backpack, they brought it in, placed it on there. So it was just a hitchhiker. He sort of appeared there. They were either found by a student, and then we came in and did the inspection. But it's usually not going to be, you're in a pretty safe environment with all your study rooms, your lecture halls, things like that. It's not an area where bed bugs really want to be. They can be there, but they don't really want to be there because there's just not enough overnight activity that they can feed on. I like show and tell, so if anybody wants to see some, these are dead, don't open the jar. There's some adults, there's some, maybe mid-size, but the best one is, there's a nymph here. He's kind of hard to find, you got to kind of look for him, but he's probably about the first stage of an N-star, and he's had his first blood meal. The adults, you'll read a lot of stuff on the internet that they can live, I think the last ridiculous thing I read was like 2 years. 3 to 6 months could be for an adult, and he can go through long periods of starvation, but it's only because of temperatures. You know, there's nothing below 50 and nothing over 80 or 90, and he's kind of happy, but it's an adult. If it's the younger N-stars, they need a blood feast to survive, because every time they get a blood feast, they grow to the next stage. So if they don't get that, they'll die off within a matter of days. So they're not your problem, the adults are your problem. So they're kind of neat to look at. And then I thought we talk a little bit about mattress encasements. This is not a cure-all for bed bugs, but I tell you, it does help me as an inspector. And it helps you too, because what this is, and if anybody wants to see this at the end, they can, but this material was developed for dust mites. And if a dust mite can't get through that would be in a mattress with someone with really severe allergies, a bed bug can't. And when you put one of these, and these are kind of expensive, they could go anywhere between $60 to $150 depending on the manufacturer. But when you put one of these on, what it does, it'll trap the bed bugs inside that, and they can't come out to feed. It doesn't cure your problem, but you'll see the fecal matter. You'll be able to see anything additional that will be on the bed frame and the headboard, things like that. So I recommend those, and believe me, I don't. It's not that I would try to sell them, but it's just good. It's just because a lot of the dorms have the blue hospital-type mattresses that are great, but you put one of these on it, and you'll see bed bug fecal matter really quick. We talk a little bit about the dogs, and the dogs are great. We use 3 dogs, and when we bring the dog, you know, the dog's scent is just, it's miraculous how they can find the bed bugs, because they can find drugs, they can find bombs, they can find cadavers. I mean, they pretty much teaching dogs to detect cancer now. So when he comes in, what he'll do is he'll alert and he'll sit. And so we know that it was the 4th chair, he sat there. We take him out, we bring the other dog in, and if he sits, we're pretty sure there's something there. We'll bring the 3rd dog in, and that's confirmed. That helps us out a lot, because when we first started this, I had 1 dog, and whenever he would alert, I would have to verify it. So I was crawling around with a flashlight, because dogs are dogs, and they do like to play with you sometimes. So, and they're food motivated, so sometimes they're going to give you a false positive because they're just hungry or they're bored. They haven't found anything, so they're going to alert anyway. So that's why we use 3 dogs, and it's pretty much foolproof. 3 dogs are really good. The dogs will watch the handler, and if the handler comes in and he doesn't, if you know, did anybody watch A Dog Whisper? I love that show. But you know, you got to come in calm, and if you know that the first dog alerted there, you just pretend like, you know, you just kind of walk by and he just pulls you back, and now he's alerted there. So if you let the dog know that there's something there, he's going to watch you and then think, oh, maybe I better stop there. So it's a whole different science for the handlers. They have to get the dog certified every few months and constantly work with the dogs. So it's kind of an amazing thing to watch, but they're very, very accurate. I consider myself a pretty good inspector. I'm about 30% accurate. That dog is 98% accurate because he's not looking, he's smelling. So you can never beat the dog's nose. And if we do find bed bugs, we have 2 choices: insecticide or heat. If it's something like this, we can never heat this this lecture hall because it's just too much cubic feet here. So we'd either remove the chairs and take them to another room and heat them, or spot treat them. And when we do insecticide, we do it's called a crack and crevice treatment. If you read some of these labels, they don't want you to. If you look at this mattress, it's got a seam that goes all the way around it. They want you to apply the pesticide to that seam. They don't want you to fan spray it and kind of spray it all over the place. It's got to be precise. And with pesticides, it's a contact spray. Yes, there's a residual, but like I said in the beginning, it's very difficult for those insects to pick up that residual and go through their exoskeleton and die. So it's tough. It's multiple pesticide treatments. And back to the heat, we only have to do it 1 time. The heat is good as long as someone else doesn't bring it in. So I always tell the students, you know, if you're suspicious, if you think you know someone that has bed bugs, don't go there and don't have them come to you. It's that simple. You know, I had a sweet grandmother that had bed bugs in her apartment, and she said, I don't go anywhere. All I go is to the doctor and go grocery shopping. I said, has anybody visit you? She said, no, I never had, just my grandson. I said, oh, how old's your grandson? Oh, he's 6. Well, where does he sleep? Oh, he sleeps right here in bed with me. Where does he live? Well, he lives in an apartment a couple miles away. Do they have bed bugs? Oh, she says, I'm really embarrassed. I don't want to ask them. I said, you know, you really should. And she did, and they did. So her little grandson comes with his bag and brings him to grandma. Then grandma had bed bugs. So that's the vicious circle of bed bugs. But Wayne State will pay for the thermal treatments. I pride myself in the dorms that we do, UT, Chatsworth, DeRoy, the Towers, Atchison, and we've been doing them now for probably over 3 years. And when we first started, there was a problem, and I was probably doing 2 bed bug treatments every other day. Now we're doing maybe 2 a month. So it works. It does work good. They haven't spread. We do perimeter inspections if someone has them in the apartment. We do left, right, top, and bottom just to make sure. And the heat definitely works. So again, the best advice I can give anybody is don't go anywhere where you think they have bed bugs, and don't let anybody come to you. And at the end, you can come up and look at the bugs, and if anybody has any questions, shoot. That's it. Okay, thanks.